Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Natalie Byrne and today I'm going to be talking about Imposter Syndrome. Imposter Syndrome is a psychological term referring to a pattern of behaviour where people doubt their accomplishments and have a persistent, often internalised fear of being exposed as a fraud. This year I was very honoured to be asked to be a judge for D&AD's Young Blood Awards. So D&AD represents global creative, design and advertising communities and celebrates brilliance in commercial creativity. So they have these competitions. I was a judge for the Young Blood Awards, which is a competition, many different briefs aligned with brands, companies. Students can send in their work and the winners get kind of this award that really helps them propel them into the industry. And I remember getting the email and my reaction was like, I think you've got the wrong person. And I think this is really important for me to talk about because the fact that I was invited to be a judge and I still had all of this very emotional feelings about imposter syndrome, and I think this is important for me to talk about, and I feel like this would have really helped me when I was a student. So I want to talk about a little bit about my background before I talk about my experience, this incredible experience of being a judge this year. I have generalised anxiety disorder and panic attack disorder, and I think no one would have guessed at university that I would have become an illustrator, that I would be starting up my own business, and I don't think anyone, especially me, saw my career like panning out the way that it did. And so it's my experience being at university was brilliant and I loved going to university, but I failed my first year. I never really won anything, and I never was at the top of my class. And I think this is really important because I feel like the story of success, especially in the creative industry, is usually like, I think very linear, if that's the right word. Timothy Goodman's, the Jessica Walsh's, the Kate Moros's, like, you just see this story which is told so many times, which is, yeah, I was amazing and great things happened. And I don't know, I want so much to be honest about my story and be honest about my experience. And I failed first year and I think I went into a really dark depression after university because I realised at university that I was terrible at networking and very shy, and it was when I got my diagnosis for my anxiety and panic attacks, and I just was overwhelmed because I guess I had this realisation that to do all the things I wanted to do in my life, I was going to have to talk to people, I was going to have to be confident and believe in my work, which I didn't believe in, and I just couldn't. I guess it was the case of like, I didn't believe in myself, so therefore who the hell was going to believe in me? And I very much was existing in that, and I just struggled. I was at that time still wanting to be a graphic designer, and that was my dream and that was my goal, and I really struggled finding my place and finding the thing that was my thing that I was good at. And even though I was very passionate and very driven and very ambitious and loved it, I struggled finding that thing that I feel like I was like, I knew I wanted to be creative. I loved graphic design industry. I loved what graphic design was for and like the whole, what it was, what the goal was here. But I just didn't find my thing. And I saw everyone kind of finding their thing that they were really good at, their niche and their category or whatever. And I, at uni, I guess I was just waiting for like something to happen. And I was very, very timid, very shy, and very unconfident. And, we can talk about the intricacies of why I felt that way, coming from a background that had no money, being biracial, mixed race, Latina. Could have also had an influence in all of the lack of confidence that I had, whether that was not really seeing anyone that looked like me doing what I wanted to do, not really seeing many women in the industry, not really seeing many Latina women in the industry. And I remember people that I had really, really admired coming to talk at my university and just being stuck in my seat afterwards. While everyone was going up and talking to that person, I was just like, I can't move, like being so overcome with anxiety and like imposter syndrome, and like, what would I even say if I talked to that person I really admired, Anyway, so I just was a very, very anxious student, and that definitely influenced my career and my creativity. And when I got my diagnosis, it was a real shake, because I really believed that having anxiety, and the kind of anxiety that I had where it was social anxiety, so people made me nervous, new people made me nervous, networking, and I had this realization, don't cry, at my final year end of show, where we kind of had this exhibition, and there were people from the industry invited to come and see it, and I was just in the corner with this tiny glass of champagne, just like frozen, like everyone was mingling, everyone was talking to everyone, and I was like, I can't do this, I can't network. And I realised that I was never going to be able to do what I wanted to do because of my anxiety, and that really kept me stuck for a very, very long time. And even doing things like interviews, being a student, getting asked to do an interview is amazing, but I really didn't feel good enough. Like, I can't talk about my work, and I'm riddled with anxiety, and to nail an interview is such a key part to getting a job. And, I remember I used to cry about it all the time. Like, I'm never going to be able to have a creative career. I'm never going to be able to get a job in an agency. I'm never going to do all of these things that are my dream, because my anxiety is just so terrible. Like, to give you an idea of how bad my anxiety was, is that I used to have to get off at every tube stop because I would have a panic attack. It was tough. Like, it wasn't just like, oh, I feel anxious. It was like debilitating. It's taking over my life. I can't eat, I can't sleep, anxiety. When I started to do illustration on the side of a graphic design job I had, which, I did some amazing internships. When I was working as a graphic designer on the side, I was doing illustration, and these things started to happen. Magazines started to want to interview me. I started being asked to be a public speaker. And, I'm the kind of person that even still today, when I go to an event, I have to contact the organiser of the event ahead of time and ask for an end of aisle seat, because my anxiety still today, I still can't sit in the middle of an aisle. I have to be on the end. And I've done public speaking stuff. I've been on talks, I've been on podcasts, I've been on Women's Hour. Like, I've done all of these things that I've never thought I was going to do. And I got invited to be a D&AD judge, and I did that yesterday. And anxiety is still like a part of my life, but I think really tackling these things, saying yes to everything, doing it anyway. I think that we're really lucky I'm really lucky and privileged that, I exist in a culture and in a society now where anxiety is still at least a little bit understood compared to other mental health issues. So if I have to take a minute outside, if I have a panic attack, I feel like, especially in the space that I work at, people will understand. But yeah, I still feel it. I felt yesterday so much. like, what am I doing here? When I was judging, I was the first couple, maybe like an hour and a half, I was like, I don't know why I'm here. But I also feel like, I don't know, it would have been really helpful for me as a student that had really bad anxiety, to hear that people who are still doing what they want to do and feeling terrified and doing it anyway. Because that's really the only thing that's different from me being really, really anxious to say yes to anything and not doing anything, to me now public speaking and being doing all these things, is I just said yes to everything. And I have to acknowledge that I might be shit at the beginning. I'm still not the best public speaker at all. But the only way to improve, unfortunately, is to just do it and just to keep doing it. And I said to myself, the first 8 public times I speak publicly are going to be terrible, and that's fine. I'm happy with that. Like, I just have to accept that, and that's okay. But if I want to be good at it, and then people that have been asking me to speak for a reason, you know, and actually, I think every single time I've mentioned that I'm anxious at a time where I speak publicly, I've gotten so many people afterwards being like, thank you so much for saying that. So for me and my anxiety, what I found very, very helpful is I have picked up a couple of tips and tricks on the way. So, for example, this D&AD judging that I did yesterday, still can't believe that's the thing I'm saying. I kind of arrived and everyone was like networking and mingling and, you know, doing the mingling. And I kind of went to the toilet and I wiped the sweat off my face because I was very nervous. And I just kind of looked in the mirror and I was like, okay, Natalie, you're going to go out there, and if there's one person sat on their own, you'll speak to that person. And if there's no one sat on their phone, no one sat on their own, you could just sit in the corner and sit on your phone, because that's what I did. That's what I did at the Bill Gates event. So I did. I sat down next to someone. I was like, hello, my name's Natalie, and I shook their hand. No big deal. It turns out they work at Pentagram. No big deal. It's fine. And I was like, of course, like, I know this person. Like, I follow them on Twitter. Like, this is wild. I move it in this room. And then again, the imposter syndrome. But I think for me, it's just like, I don't know what, I guess this is kind of just like a little rambly video, but it's like I battled between like, no, D&AD invited me here, but also why the hell am I here? You know, and then we all went into this room and sat down and everyone introduced themselves. On my left was Serena from Saatchi, and on my right was Chris from a Ghibli. I was just like, what am I doing here? Like, I can't believe I'm here. What am I doing here? And that first hour, I was so anxious. I was like, I'm gonna have a panic attack. I'm sweating, and every time like someone asked me what I thought, I was like, like I felt like a child, and like I couldn't believe that I was sat on a table with people I really admire and that I look up to their creative work, and I was like sat on the table with them. It was mind-blowing for me. A kind of young teenage graphic designer in me like was sweating. And I was too. But yeah, after about an hour, I realised like, no, this brief is a brief about periods. I know some stuff about periods. This is my world. This is what I've been working on. And I know this stuff. So I don't know, I guess. I don't know what I wanted it to be, but I really had so many emotions yesterday, and so many things kind of came up and it started off me being very anxious to me finding my voice at that table. And, you know, another thing that I guess I wasn't very vocal about being a D&AD judge because I did feel so much imposter syndrome. I looked at the other judges that were there and I really felt like I didn't know why I was there. And after about an hour of being at that table and kind of, I guess, slowly starting to come out of my shell more, I realised that that's really sad. That I guess I wasn't proud of an achievement because I was in my head so much. And how much of an honour it is to be sat at that table with some amazing people that I've been looking up to from such a small child, small teenager. And how I think this, apart from my book launch, this was definitely up there in one of the best days of my career that I will cherish forever. And so, yeah, I guess there's so many levels, because it's anxiety, imposter syndrome, being, not even a full-time illustrator for a year. I'm a baby illustrator. And I failed first year of uni. I've never been given any kind of award for anything. And it's almost I guess the first time I felt like the creative industry almost validated me. And even though I don't think any young person, especially if you're a young woman, you don't need any person's validation at all. And I don't think that is what has ever driven me to make anything. It's never been about getting a blue tick or having a pat on the back from anyone else. That's not why I'm here doing the work. And I guess because it has come as such a surprise, such a shock, that now I'm here, it's wow, I guess. And then, of course, being in a room with so many powerful people talking about periods, especially men, being in a conversation and them really caring. And I don't know, I guess it's just fucking emotional, man. The whole thing was just an emotional roller coaster. And I left the day and I cried, because it was just so many emotions just coming up to the surface. And it was it was one of the best days of my career. And I think that even though I guess I haven't even touched on the students' work, and it's totally about the students. And also, another thing I was very, very nervous about is I knew that I was going to, being a very, very shy person and a very timid person, I find it very hard in professional settings to stand up for what I believe in with my mouth. Pictures I can do, emails I'm better at because I can construct my thoughts and say it in the best way possible, but I do find it very, very hard to vocalise and stand up for things professionally with my voice. And so coming to a table where would I feel intimidated by other people to not say what I thought was a definite problem, was an issue that I thought going into the situation, would I be able to stand up for myself? And then as soon as I got there, I remembered all these people that are here talking about periods, they were so warm and kind. Yeah, I don't know. I guess it was just it was walking into that situation. It was one of the most terrifying experiences I've ever had in my life. And then in the situation, I realised it was the best experience I've ever had in my life. So, and that always is the case when you have anxiety and you do things that fucking terrify you, is you end up leaving that situation that you did that thing that terrifies you. Wow, I'm so proud of myself, and that is the best thing I've ever done in my life. So, I don't know, I wanted this video to be if any students watching this and you're terrified, right there. And I still feel terrified, and I still have things that I don't know how I'm going to do it with my anxiety, but I do it. And the best thing, if you're in the creative space and in the advertising space or graphic design space, is that you're more often than not surrounded by very, very kind liberals and very, very kind men. I think I get a lot of trolling, and I get a lot of a lot of trolls from men online, so you just kind of have to, I just have to be wow, it's that creative industry is just full of just wonderfully kind men. Anyway, I'm gonna go, and I hope this was helpful. And just know that, look, I've never won anything, and I failed my first year of uni. If you're in a tough spot, it's gonna, you just have to keep going. You just have to do the things that scare you. And just know that I'm here and I'm terrified. I've been able to kind of carve out a creative career and that I love. Yeah, I guess I just wanted to make this video for anyone who's creative and feeling lost and feeling scared. That I know it feels like there's so many people that don't feel that way, but there are a lot of people that feel that way. And I also think that more often than not, if you are really, really scared, it actually comes down to things that are out of your control. So personally for me, the people that have anxiety when it comes to their careers and feeling, really low self-esteem and low confidence, in my experience, it's come from people who are usually not from money, have really struggled with their economic background, and also, maybe different culture. Anyone that is maybe not seeing themselves represented, and that's making them feel like, well, do I really fit in here then? Because that's how I felt. And it wasn't anyone ever said to me. It was just when you can't see anyone doing what you want to do, it makes it really hard for you to feel like you belong there. So yeah, I guess I just wanted to say, whatever you're doing, even if you're terrified, more often than not, when you lean into the things that scare you, they're the best things ever. So I'm gonna go. I don't know what this was, but I hope it helped in some way.